everyone. As you may have heard in other podcasts, me and several of the other folks from Redspin that have went through this process and leading up to the assessment, we talked about that this is really an organizational activity. It's not something that's just relegated to the security or the IT functions. And I know that if you've listened to those earlier podcasts, you've probably heard me mention about our VP of Marketing intimidating the assessors the very first morning of our assessment. So with that, welcome, Carrie.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Thomas. I'm happy to be here. Appreciate it. As the head of marketing, I'm responsible for making sure that our websites do not have any CUI, and the same with our social media accounts. And if they do get CUI on them, what do we do with them?
So, as I mentioned earlier, Carrie, you were kind of the first one out of the gates, when in that Monday morning meeting, we didn't even go in line with, AC 1001 being first. It was AC 1004. So, what was that kind of like for you? How did that go?
Well, it was a very scary morning. Like Thomas said, I did go first, and I want to step back and kind of explain that all of us from the leadership team are on the call. We have no idea who's going to go first. There's a team of the assessors that are there ready to start asking questions, and they ask a question about social media, and I was on. And I instantly had to be ready to be able to respond. And I did it. And I think I shocked them because they were like, okay, great. We're ready to move on.
I'm sure that you were actually flabbergasted at that, because I know you just wanted them to take the interview process longer with you, didn't they, Carrie?
No, I mean, you were drilling it in my brain, and in our other provisional assessor for weeks and months about how prepared I had to be. So I was very scared and nervous.
Granted, but I mean, don't you think that drilling, that repetition, kind of helped you? I mean, was it just, the notes from those sessions, or what else did you have on hand to kind of help you through your interview process?
Yeah, as a leadership team, we had a stand-up call every morning to go through prepping for CMMC for months. As well as I did trial runs with you as to, pretending like you were the assessor asking me questions so that I was prepared. I know our CEO, he printed out a binder that was, probably 3 inches thick of all of our documentation. He had that, ready to go, but it was also online. And I had that up and I was ready, but, I knew what our processes and procedures were. And I also was prepared to answer the questions that I was asked by the assessors.
So your assessment process, really in relation to you not having an IT role, honestly, within the organization, the assessment process was probably almost kind of like an interview process, that you have, like we're going through right now. But it had a little bit more ambiguity to it, because you knew what you were doing. You knew what your team was able to do. Now it was just getting it documented, so that way we had the traceability from our responsibility matrix down to you as the data owner, and then who was responsible for it within your own group of folks. Is that kind of how it went, or?
We're used to being very sensitive about the data that we share. And so, we had our processes and procedures in place. It was more of just buttoning them up and making sure that I was able to speak to them and that we had them documented, and really around protecting CUI. One of the lessons learned, at least from my standpoint, was that, yes, we had those procedures in place, but we didn't have the logging system of checking that our social media accounts did not have CUI, going back on a regular basis and then marking that off that we did review our social media accounts, making sure that we're looking at who has access to our accounts. That was one of the things I thought would be a good takeaway for anyone else that's responsible for social media.
Yeah, and it wasn't really just social media in and of itself. You also, our public websites fall under your group's purview. So that naturally would would have also come under this type of insurance that you're not getting CUI out there. Now, Carrie,
Yep.
we've kind of talked a little bit about, what you did and what some of your thoughts were on the assessment process, but was there any true aha moment or any, wow, I really didn't understand that until I went through this?
Yeah. So one of the things that we did in preparing was that we went through an IR exercise, and that was very valuable. We do them as a company on a regular basis, but this one we had to factor in CUI and what we would do, and we built out different scenarios. We built out templates so that if there was CUI, what do we do? So we had responses prepared for press releases to the media on social, and what were all the steps that we would take should that happen.
Yeah, I remember going through it with you, and one of the things that, as you just mentioned, to point out was that a lot of times in IR activities, they talk about run books or activities, and that was one of the things that you identified was that we could probably go ahead and get these templates together. So if we had to release information to X organization, we already had the verbiage created. We just had to put in the details. So I definitely I remember that being one of the, oh crap, do I have this moments whenever you were first going through it. So Carrie, with going through the CMMC activity and the exercise, we've really, in past podcasts, we've talked about it's a paradigm shift that it has to change the way that your organization thinks about things. So how has the CMMC activity changed kind of your own internal processes and procedures for the marketing department?
Not only is, I think, as a leadership team, it's something that we talk about on a daily, weekly basis, but from a marketing perspective, we've matured as a team. We've matured our processes and procedures, and we really have a CUI mindset. Even when we think about, as a marketing professional, we're always looking to keep up with the trends and make sure that we're implementing the latest technology. And that's one of the things that, because of CMMC, when we think about, oh, I want to bring on this tool and that tool, is how does it interact in our environment? Is there a chance that it could access CUI? And we have to go through it. And Thomas, this because I have to report to you on this, is I have to go through lengthy questionnaire of all of the necessary security protocols that these pieces of technology have. And it takes, a review from you, the CISO, to, IT to make sure that we can bring on those tools.
Well, as much as I am the bane of your existence at some points in time, I would say that what it's kind of giving you appreciation for is how integrated these things are into our organization, because we've adopted it not just for CUI, we've adopted it for any tool set that we're going to use. They go through the same process, and that includes, identifying those data elements such as CUI that they're going to touch or even have access to. And, as you said up front, out of the gate, you were the first one, which we didn't have any insight into when we were beginning the assessment. So it's definitely, hearing it from your perspective and not just mine, I think is definitely beneficial to other organizations that are going through this, because they may not have reached that level of realization yet that it's not just a security or IT function.
Yeah, when I was finished, I was thinking a lot of marketing professionals probably are not aware that they play a very important role in the CMMC process.
Nope, you're absolutely correct. And again, thank you for sharing your insight and kind of what you went through with the whole assessment process.
Thank you for making sure that I was prepared.
So in closing, Carrie, what would be that one piece of advice that you think other marketing vice presidents or marketing leads, whoever's responsible for this in other organizations, what do you think it would be that you would advise them to do?
Start early. prepare now and make sure that you have your processes and procedures buttoned up, and start logging that you are following those procedures and processes now. I would connect with either your internal CMMC expert, or if you need to connect with a third party, I would be doing that, and get your leadership team involved now.
Definitely good advice, Carrie. And again, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, it was fun. Thank you.